Hello, students, and anyone else who may be watching from home. My name is Zanzolo, also known as Mr. Borges, and today we're going to be talking about our next project in Scratch. It's going to be our dodgeball challenge, and you can always read this description yourself. It's posted in the comments of our studio, our school studio on the Scratch website. Now, and there's an example here we're going to look at in just a moment. So, dodgeball challenge. Your project needs to have the following things. Number one, you got to have a sprite that follows the mouse pointer. What I mean by this, we're going to control the player with the mouse pointer. Let's talk about how to do that. And the player, whatever artwork you choose for that, it's got to always be facing the ball. And we'll see that in the example in a moment here. Now, when the game is over, when the ball hits the player, we're going to change costumes. We're going to change artwork for the player, right? So that's the first. I know it seems like more than one thing, but you need to have a sprite that has certain things. So what are the certain things that sprite has? It needs to follow the mouse pointer, always be facing the ball, and change costumes when it's touching the ball. So that's one thing, the sprite, that we have to write several different instructions for. Then thing number two, you're going to have a ball sprite. I put quotes around the word ball because it doesn't have to be a ball. It could be a ball, but you could make your own game where kids, maybe it's a cat that's chasing a mouse and the mouse is trying to get away from the ball, which is actually a cat, or you could come up with your own creative, interesting ideas. Right? So that's why I put ball in quotes like that. So thing number two, a ball sprite that moves around the stage by itself. Okay. We're going to write the code for that. Number three, when two sprites touch, the ball and the dodger, when the two sprites touch, the backdrop changes and the project stops. Now, that's an important idea, and that's part of the lesson for this project. As computer programmers, it's up to us. We need to make sure that the users, the players, know, hey, when the game is over, we need to let them know somehow the game is over. If you lost, we got to let you know that. And we need to code things up in such a way so that the game doesn't just keep going even though the game's over, right? We have to actually stop things. We gotta tell the dodger, okay, you're not supposed to be following the mouse pointer anymore. We gotta tell the ball, you're not supposed to be bouncing around all anymore. The game is over. So we gotta code that up ourselves. And then number four, a better title than untitled. We always need that. Always and forever. Okay, and there's an example right here. If you click on this example, it's going to take you to this. It's going to take you to this project right here. So if I click the green flag, you're going to see I'm using a basketball for the ball. I'm using scratch.cat for the dodger. I'm moving scratch.cat around with my mouse pointer. All right, we're going to write the instructions for that. And one of the things that's happening here, and it's maybe not, I'm not making scratch.cat change directions like that. Scratch.cat is looking back and forth, always facing the ball all by itself. Scratch.cat does that. We're going to write the instructions to make Scratch.cat do that. And as you've already seen, it's happened a couple of times. If you get hit by the ball, we change the backdrop for the stage to let the user know that the game is over, right? We code it up in such a way that the mouse pointer, I can't move the dodger, I can't move Scratch.cat anymore with the mouse pointer. The game is over. The ball is also stopped with the right instructions that tell the ball to stop when the game is over also. All right, so those are the things that we're going to have. And then, of course, a better title than untitled. So we'll talk about that too. So better title than untitled. Go ahead and put whatever that is in there. If it's the cat dodger from what we talked about before, you could do something like that. Had kids in the past do was it Nyan Cat? That Pop-Tart cat was like dodging a toaster or something. I mean, like, you could come up with your own wacky, crazy, interesting ideas. I'd love to see them. But give yourself a title for your project that makes sense. So, right, if this is the cat dodger, then call it the cat dodger. If it's just dodgeball, then you can just call it dodgeball. I'm going to call mine dodgeball. But that's just because I'm recreating the example we did before. You go ahead and create your own title that makes sense. So Here's Scratch Cat. We already have the Scratch Cat sprite. If you want to change the artwork for Scratch Cat, we've talked about doing that before. Go ahead. You can go into the costumes and change Scratch Cat to be something else. You can just get a random thing, whatever. So now we've got a butterfly. So we're going to have a butterfly as our dodger for our project. I'm just going to get rid of these costumes because they feel cluttery to me, but they're not hurting anything. I could have left them there. All right, so we're going to do dodgeball dodger with the butterfly. But the butterfly needs to dodge something. We need another sprite for that. So I'm going to get another sprite. Here's my butterfly sprite. Give it a better name than sprite 1. Butterfly. And then we're going to get another sprite, and we can just see what we get randomly. Okay, we did get the cat. So maybe the cat's going to try to catch the butterfly. I don't know. So cat is a perfectly fine name for this sprite. So one of these things is going to move around all by itself, and one of these things is the thing that we're going to control. And is the computer programmer itself to decide that. So am I choosing the butterfly, trying to get away from the cat that's moving around? Or am I choosing the butterfly, it's the cat, trying to like basically run away from, or maybe trying to catch the butterfly, and the butterfly is moving around and I'm trying to catch it out, right? It's changing the idea a little bit, but you can go ahead and do something like that too. I do want to encourage you, if you have your own interesting, creative, cool ideas, right, to try them out. So I think what we're going to do, though, in the spirit of dodgeball, right, and maybe we're going to change the title of this, actually. Now this is kind of turning into a different idea, right? We're going to have the butterfly try to dodge the cat. So let's go ahead and pick ourselves a background for this. And I'm not going to sit here and have you watch me scroll through all these things and pick out the very best one. I'm just going to pick one. Is this the perfect backdrop for this? Maybe not. You pick out the perfect one for yours. Okay, so now we're going to write some instructions for things. We're going to start out with the cat. So we're going to have the cat move, and just like we did in Epic Dance Party, we want the cat to keep moving, keep doing something over and over and over, well, forever, as long as the project's going anyway. And so we're going to get that event block out. Zoom in a little bit. We're going to get that event block out. When the green flag is clicked is when we're going to have Scratch Cat start moving, and then we're going to have them do something over and over forever. What are we going to have them do over and over and over forever? We're going to have them move, so we get out a move block. Okay, so in Epic Dance Party, you could have just ran this. The cat just tries to move, but you see they get to the edge of the screen. This forever loop is still glowing, still highlighted in yellow right now. It means this cat is trying to hit the edge of the screen. It's trying to still move 10 steps forward. I can show that to you by dragging the cat back over here and letting it go. It's still trying to move. I just ran out of room, hit the edge over there. Right? We don't want the cat to just get stuck up on the edge and try to keep moving like that or whatever else. So what we're going to do is we want the cat to, if it's on the edge, if it's touching the edge, we want it to bounce. And there's an instruction. It's a block that Scratch included for us. It's a nice, tidy instruction that's called if on edge bounce. If we put it inside of our forever loop, then every time it's going to go through the loop. It's going to move 10 steps and then check. If it's on the edge, do a bounce and then start over. Move 10 steps. Check if you're on the edge. So it's going to get our cat doing something like this. Right, so it's pretty good, I guess, but this is like a baby game right now. If I just move the butterfly up here, the cat's never going to get me anyway. I mean, it can't really lose or something. It's not interesting. And nobody's going to play your game very long if it's boring or too easy. So we got to do something a little bit more than this with the cat. We go back to the cat sprite. So it's the direction that's messing things up, right? The cat's just pointing straight that way and then bouncing straight back this way. So what we want to do is go ahead and stop this. What we want to do is we want to point the cat in whatever direction we want. And there's this block called point in direction. Now if we click on the number here, we can choose which direction we want the cat to point in, right? And if I just click on this block once, you can see now the cat is pointing that way. And then if I get my loop going again, the cat's moving around in a much less predictable way, right? So gonna have to maybe actually try to get out of the way or something now, and that's pretty good. So, right, what we can do is that pointing in a direction, that's part of our initial conditions. That's part of how we want to set things up at the beginning of our program. So way up at the beginning, way up at the beginning, right after the green flag is clicked, this is the first thing that's going to happen. We set up our initial conditions. We set up the way that the cat's going to be, the direction they're going to be pointing in. Okay, so we could run this then, and the cat's going to point off in a different direction. One of the places that my students, a lot of times they go wrong, they get into trouble, is they put this inside here like this. And then they'll run their program and they'll get this weird thing going on. And then they'll say, Mr. Borges, something was wrong with Scratch. I told it to do what I wanted to do, but the cat's just like stuck. It's doing some weird thing over here, right? And I want you to understand what's going on is because I put that point in direction inside the loop, always, always, and forever, the cat's trying to point this way. Yeah, then it moves 10 steps, then it checks if it's on the edge, then it does a bounce, but then it points this way again. So it's always inside the loop. Point this way, point this way, point this way, point this way. That's why it's stuck pointing this way. Right? We don't want them to point that way forever. We just want to point that way once at the beginning, and then we want them to move and bounce forever. Okay, so there we go. That's pretty good, and we could actually be totally done with the cat right now. I think maybe we are. Let's talk about the butterfly, the dodger. So we're going to click on the butterfly sprite so that we can write code for it. We're going to want it to do something also when the green flag is clicked. And we're going to want it to do that thing over and over. We want it to move, right? It's going to be a motion block. We want it to move to the mouse pointer, wherever the mouse pointer is. Right? So we're going to say over and over and over forever. We want the butterfly to move. That's a motion block. We want it to move to, not a random position. We want it to go to the mouse pointer. And so we can do this. Now if I run the program, now I've got a butterfly that's always moving to the mouse pointer and a cat that's moving around by itself. So that's actually most of the program, right? The way that it looks. The way that it looks is going pretty well. We still got to make a background with the game over screen on it. But then we have to write the rules about how do things move and when do they do what they're supposed to be doing. Okay. And then I also just realized that because my butterfly is symmetrical, you're not going to be able to tell if it's facing, you're not going to really be able to tell if it's facing the cat or not. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to show you what that is too. Let's create the game over backdrop. So I'm going to go to choose a backdrop and we're going to draw our own. Right, so then we're going to go ahead and keep this Jurassic, but I'm going to change the name of it to Start. So I'm going to remember, always and forever, it's going to be easy to figure out. I'm not going to have weird names, backdrop 1 and backdrop 2, and have to try to get a cheat sheet, remember which one's which. Start's the one I want to start with. Right, and then this one, I'm going to give this a better name too. This is going to be the Game Over backdrop. So I'm just going to name it Game Over. And then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get my paint bucket here, going to dump some color. Let's see. Paint bucket. Got our, this is pretty good here. Let's convert this to bitmap so that we can just dump color wherever we want. There we go. And we can just put text wherever we want. We will talk about vector graphics in another lesson, but probably not today. So I'm going to go ahead and change the color of this text here. So I don't know, whatever it was red in the other one. I'm going to say Game Over. All right, that's pretty good. You can change the font style if you'd like to do that. There's a number of different font styles. And then once you get your color and font style set up the way that you want, you can change the size of it too. And I suggest you do make it nice and big so that there's player for sure knows what's going on. Your game is over. All right. Okay. Well, that's pretty good. So let's go back then to the code for the butterfly. And if we run it, one of the things you'll see is that game over screen is there. It's not supposed to be game over yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to backdrops and then right? We can decide which one we have here, which one we want to have. But part of setting our initial conditions is going to be, let's go back to the cat's code. Part of setting our initial conditions, yeah, we have the cat point in a certain direction. We also want to have the right background that we want. So we need to set that up at the beginning. right? So we can go to looks, and there's a block right here that says switch backdrop to. And because we gave them good names, here's our good names that we picked. Either start or game over. When the green flag is clicked, we want to switch the backdrop to start. Okay, there we go. So even if we are now, even if we are now in this game over condition like this, when we click the green flag, it's automatically going to go back to the starting backdrop. So that's pretty good. Now we just got to set up the rules for when do these sprites do the certain things they're supposed to do. So when they're touching each other, right, something is supposed to happen. We're supposed to switch the backdrop. We're supposed to switch the costume for butterfly, and we're supposed to stop everything. So we need to use this thing. It's a new block. It's called the if block. It checks something. If block checks if something has happened, then do the stuff. But if the thing we're checking didn't happen, we don't do it. So the idea is kind of like, and it works just like natural language. You could ask the question just using regular language, using the word if. You could say if, get a control block out here, if it's raining outside, then we're going to do the stuff that's inside the if block, right? So we could imagine we're going to put something in this space right here. If it's raining outside, then use your umbrella, or something like that. If it's time to brush your teeth, go find your toothbrush, whatever we put inside here. But if it's not time to go brush your teeth, we're not going to go find our toothbrush. We'll skip that block and then keep moving. So that's the idea of how these if blocks work. And we can check lots of different things, right? One of the things that we can check if, and there's a lot of sensing blocks for different things that we can check. You can see these blocks are shaped in such a way that they can fit into this peg, into this hole right here in the if block. So one of the things is about touching. So we can check. This is an instruction for the cat now. We want to write this instruction. We need to decide. So part of what we need to do right now is we don't want to, and it's a problem my students run into, we don't want to have both the butterfly checking if it's touching the cat and having the cat checking if it's touching the butterfly. And the reason why is because it sets up almost like a contest, like a race between the two things. We don't want them both trying to test the same thing and then have one of them be in a race to decide who's touching who first, and us not even knowing who's going to win that race. It can cause weird things to happen. And the reason why I'm saying that is it might sound confusing, but the idea is that a computer can't do more than one thing at the same time. I know they're super fast and it seems like they do more than one thing at the same time, but in the end, instructions really go into the CPU, into the computer brain one at a time. And so because of that, we can't have the butterfly check if it's touching the cat and the cat check if it's touching the butterfly at the same time. So if we give them both the same instruction, one of them will happen first, and we have no way of knowing even which one will happen first, and it can cause weird problems. So we're going to have one of these two sprites be in charge of checking if it's touching. And actually, I started writing this for the cat, but I'm going to write it for the butterfly. And the reason why is only because I'm going to have the butterfly do something if they're touching the cat. The cat's going to stop, but I'm just going to have the whole program stop. We'll show you how that works here. So get out an if block and a sensing block, the touching block, right? So if touching, not mouse pointer, this is an instruction for the butterfly. If touching cat, then what do we want to do? Well, if those two sprites are touching, we want to switch the backdrop to the game over backdrop. That's under looks. Switch backdrop to game over. We also want to stop everything. That's a control block. It's called stop. There we go. And we also would like to switch costumes for the butterfly. We're going to add that part in a little bit later on. Now, when do we want to check if it's touching? We need to check not just one time at the beginning. Here's another mistake my students make a lot. They'll do something like this. And then they'll run the program. And then they'll try it out. And the cat touched the butterfly and nothing happened. And they'll say, Mr. Borges, something was wrong with this program because I coded up perfectly and it's not working. Right? And it's not making fun of them, but I want you to get this idea, right? The problem here that we don't want to just check this. Here the program starts, the if block happens once, and then we go inside this forever loop and forever, ever, ever do this. We're never going to check if we're touching the cat again. We need to check if we're touching the cat over and over and over. Also, it's got to go inside of our forever loop like this, Right, so to read this, when the green flag is clicked, forever, go to the mouse pointer, the butterfly will move to the mouse pointer, and then check if touching the cat. If it is, switch the backdrop and stop all. Stop all will break this forever loop, will make it stop. But if it's not touching, we're going to skip this stuff and then start over. So, right, not touching, not touching, not touching. We keep skipping the stop all. We keep skipping the part about switching the backdrop. But if they do touch, right, we do switch the backdrop to game over, and we do stop all. Right? So that's pretty good. If we click the green flag, those things get reset because of their initial conditions that we picked. So that's all pretty good. The last thing then, actually, you know what? We were supposed to have the butterfly was supposed to always be pointing towards the cat. That was one of the things that we said. So let's get that one more instruction for the butterfly. And we're going to do that right here with point towards. Here it is. With point towards. And not point towards the mouse pointer. In this case, we want to point towards the cat. And we don't want to just do that one time at the beginning. I hope you're starting to get this idea. We want the butterfly to over and over and over always point to the cat. So it's going to have to go inside of our forever loop. Something that we're doing over and over and over. So if I click on this now my butterfly is always facing towards the cat. But you might think, if you look at it, you say, well, Mr. Borges, it kind of looks like the butterfly's side is pointing to the cat. It's not really like his eyeballs aren't pointing towards. It doesn't really like he's always looking at the cat to me. And I agree with you, right? And that's another thing we get to talk about right now. So I know there's a bunch in this lesson. Here we go, right? Here's the artwork for the butterfly. And for Scratch, I want you to understand that when it thinks, Scratch doesn't know that this is a drawing of a butterfly that has eyeballs on it or anything like that, right? So Scratch treats everything the same, and it treats all images as if they were pointing out to the right over here, as if they're pointing to the right-hand side. Now, I know to us, it doesn't really look like the butterfly is pointing that way. So it doesn't look the way that we would think. So one way that you can fix that really easily is I just grabbed my selection tool, drew a box around my whole butterfly, and then I'm going to grab this anchor over here that lets me rotate, and I'm going to turn the butterfly so that my human brain makes this image look like to me that it's pointing to the right, because Scratch thinks all images point to the right. So now that those two things match up, the way Scratch thinks it points that way and the way I think it points that way, when I run it now, the butterfly is going to act more of the way that you might expect, where now the butterfly is always facing that cat and watching the cat. And that's fine for a butterfly, and it works pretty well for a butterfly. But what I do want to show you, and the rest of the video is starting to get a little bit long, but what I do want to show you is if we pull up somebody else, let's just grab Abby right here, and we have Abby play the game right now, it doesn't make as much sense for Abby. She's like flipping all around upside down, and it's just kind of silly. Now, if you were doing this in outer space and you wanted to draw a spacesuit on Abby or something like that, then maybe it makes sense that she's floating all around like this. But it kind of doesn't make any sense at all for Abby. So I don't want Abby to be pointing all around. I want her to rotate. I have a choice about how she points. And it's this block right here called set rotation style. Now, this isn't one of those things we can do once at the beginning. We can set the rotation style for the sprite. We can set it so that it doesn't rotate at all. And if we pick don't rotate at all, she is not going to rotate. Even though we have an instruction that's telling her to point in a different direction, her artwork is never rotating. Right? We can set it to all around. That's what we had before. Now she's rotating all around, which doesn't really seem to make sense to me for this artwork, but that might make perfect sense depending on what you're doing. And another choice that's in here, and the one I'm going to pick for Abby, is left to right. And this is the one that I had for Scratch Cat before. So now she's either facing to the left or she's facing to the right and nothing else. So that way it looks like she's standing there, right? Always facing the cat though. So that makes more sense for Abby like this, but I think if we switch back to the costume for the butterfly, I liked it better when it was all around, rotating all around. Now those are things you can experiment with yourself in your own project, because different values for the rotation style will make more sense depending on what it is you're trying to do. And if you have questions about that, please post questions in the comment, and I'll be glad to help you with that. So the last thing that we were going to do is we said that, okay, if the two sprites touch, we're supposed to stop everything. We have that. We're supposed to switch the backdrop, and we've done that. And we're supposed to also change the costume. Change the costume for our butterfly. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. We're not going to use Abby anymore. One of the ways that we can then change the costume means we're going to have more than one costume here. I'm going to name this. This is going to be butterfly start. That's the costume we're going to start out with. And then I'm going to right click it and duplicate it. And this is going to be butterfly game over. Okay. And so for butterfly game over, I'm going to change the artwork for the butterfly. And one of the things that you can do, because this is vector art, is that we can make the butterfly, I don't know, is it mean? Is it mean to make the cat pull the wings off the butterfly? That seems terrible. I don't know. But it's so easy to do with the graphic, you know. I don't know. I feel like that is kind of mean. I should have come up with a nicer example or something than a cat trying to eat this butterfly, I guess. But anyways, if we go back to the code now and we try to play this, one of the things you'll see is that the butterfly is already eaten up by the cat, because I never told it to go back to its other costume. So we're going to go to the code for the butterfly, and part of our initial conditions then for the butterfly is we're going to go to looks. We're going to switch costumes. Switch costume to butterfly start. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now we get butterfly start, but it's going to always be butterfly start unless we tell it to change to butterfly game over. When do we do that? We do that when we're touching the cat. We don't need to have a bunch of if touching cat blocks, right? We can use one if touching cat block for all these things. If touching the cat, what do we want to do? Switch the costume of the butterfly to game over, switch the backdrop to game over, and stop everything. We can do all that at once. So then we test things out, make sure that they're working the way that we think. So I've got a butterfly, it's moving all around, cat's moving, dodging, I'm controlling it with the mouse. And then if the cat, oh gosh, and if the cat catches up the butterfly, it starts tearing it up and eating it, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to get in trouble with the animal rights groups or something. Anyways, so it seems like this is going pretty well. We're going to go to the project page now. So make sure that we have all the things that we're supposed to have. We have a better title than Untitled. Let's see. What is this? Butterfly snack? Is that what this is? I don't know. It's my new title, I guess. So, right. So looks like things are working the way that we wanted them to work. Make sure that you have some instructions, because the user is not going to know how they're supposed to play the game. Are they supposed to control the butterfly? Are they controlling the cat? Are they using the arrow keys and the mouse? So just put some quick instructions here, right? So use the mouse to control butterfly and have it run from the hungry cat. No, I don't know. I don't know if the cat's really hungry or if it's just playing around. But anyway, there we go. So we've got that, and then this other piece that we talked about before, but please remember, this project is not shared, so only you can see it. Click share to let everybody else see it. So you click share. Now other people can see it, but nobody knows about it yet. So your next steps to do then would be to copy this address and then paste that into Google Classroom as the link that you're turning in for your project. And then also, for fun, I want to encourage you to add this to our Classroom Studios so that your classmates and everybody else can also see your projects, and then you can play and comment on each other's projects. All right, so I know that was kind of a lot for one video. So if you feel like you missed some of it, feel free to please watch it again, or to fast forward or rewind to just the part that you need while you're creating your own project. And if you have any questions or if you get stuck on something that doesn't quite make sense to you, then please go ahead and you can leave a comment in the Classroom Studio in Scratch, or you can message me through Google Classroom or through your school email. Any of those are fine ways to get a hold of me. Although I get notifications faster usually through Google Classroom. Although you can leave comments and messages for me in Scratch also. Alrighty, folks. So that's it for this one. And we'll see you next time when we're going to do, I think the next project is the Animate Your Name project, which is another fun one. Alrighty. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.